We're going to go on to another superstar session. This one was from old friends, and this is from a brand new addition to the show, new friends in the form of Jump, who are going to talk to us about how to enhance the gaming experience through content micro-personalisation. So I've got a new friend of the show I'd like to welcome, which is the data science director of Jump, Carlos de las Heras Peña. Hola, Carlos, ¿qué tal?
Muy bien.
Yeah, that's as far as my Spanish goes, so let's not push it on, but absolute pleasure.
I'm not pushing it, don't worry.
Absolute pleasure to have you here. And so we're running a bit late, but don't worry, you have your full time. This is how these shows go. There's always a on run. So yeah, you're going to be talking to us today about enhancing the gaming experience through micro-personalisation of content. If that's correct. Fantastic.
Exactly.
And whereabouts are you speaking to us from? Just so our audience know, you're in Madrid or Barcelona? Where
I'm nearby Madrid. Yeah.
Nearby Madrid. Beautiful, beautiful, awesome. Do you have snow?
Yeah, I shall share the screen now.
Yeah, you can share the screen and go for it.
Okay, so thank you, Chris, and greetings, everyone. My name is Carlos de las Heras, and I want to share with you my vision about how data-driven decisions can improve the way in which we interact with our users, okay? The idea here is not only to get an increasement in transactions or in views, which is, of course, one of the most important company KPIs, but we are also going to be talking about how to shape in the experience of the users in new ways to accomplish several different goals, which could go with integration with the system, with new inventory rotations, etc., different goals. So my company's name is Jump, as Chris said. We are a company whose traditional domain is not gaming. It's streaming video entertainment. This is pretty different from gaming, but we are starting to adapt some of our production effective products that have proven goals on some of our clients, and we are trying to translate them into the gaming industry, okay? I'm not here to talk about Jump, however. I must give you a quick resume of who we are to give you context, okay? Because I want you to not only listen to what I propose to you, but to believe that it can actually integrate pretty efficiently with your systems, okay? So that's why I'm going to be talking a little bit about who we are, what have we done, and why do we feel confident on what I propose, okay? This is going to be done over the first 3-4 slides. However, as I was saying, the focus of this talk is showing you how the information you generate about the users, the frequency by which they engage with your games, the way they use them, the degree of expertise they demonstrate during their plays, the way they interact with other users, even the technical user experience the device they use for gaming is providing. All this information that might come from a lot of different sources, perhaps, they usually are used for your core functions, your core decision inputs. But I'm going to show you new ways to use it, okay? So, first of all, let's just contextualize. We live at a time of gaming boom. Market share of gaming devices and markets is booming a lot, especially for free-to-play games, which have seen a dramatical increase over the last decade. And naturally, as market booms, so does competition. So usually, what you have to do to strive in this domain is not only to achieve what other players have achieved during the last years, but you also have to deal with some new strategies, okay? And so the solutions we devise at Jump are based not only on business intelligence, but also on artificial intelligence. The idea here is to give you an edge by generating automatic knowledge at an user level, which can then be derived into actions, okay? However, this promising path leads to some challenging situations. For example, the fact that we might be dealing with multiple data sources usually fragmented over different repositories of technical platforms. The fact that when we want to generate insights, we are bound to attend to a large number of analytic dashboards. The fact that we find too often that there is a long time to insights and actions. This means that because of all the other challenges I just said, when you want to take specific actions looking at your data, you might have a long time of analysis to centralize your data, to understand all the different graphics, understand all the different plots, before you can translate that information into a specific market action, okay? So what we envision here is, on one side, the unification of all those data sources in a single place, called a data lake, a warehouse, whatever you want to call it. But most importantly, the construction of laser-focused, business-oriented insights, okay? I'm not saying that you will have to be in all the dashboards you might have on the company right now and just believe what we are gonna show you. What I'm saying here is that what we can do is we can ingest all the related data that you need for this kind of insights, this kind of decisions, and we can present a single dashboard in which you could understand everything you need at a glance, okay? Of course, for other kind of analysis of your company, you are still going to need all the other dashboards, but we're talking here about unification of data, which is not often trivial for all companies, okay? By doing this, what we want to achieve is instant visibility of your information, so that you can get your insights and translate it into specific impacts at a glance, or much more easy than before, okay? So JUMP is a cloud data platform that turns your data into knowledge so that you can optimize your decisions, basically. How do we do that? Or how we do that on gaming, okay? So we have a couple key proposals. One of those is to increase monetization of all your free-to-play games by offering in-app purchases contextual personalization by player, by customer, okay? The other of the proposals we have is to achieve more loyalty between your players, increase rotations. This is done by providing a disengagement prediction, okay? So what we are going to provide you is a system which is going to tell you when and which of your users are in danger of just disengaging completely with your experience, okay? Once you have your knowledge, all that is left is to turn those insights into action by creating target marketing campaigns, okay? This could be on a channel of choice, different strategies, different whatever, but the important thing here is to having the insights, to understanding which users are on the brink of disengagement, and by understanding what is more useful for them through personalization, okay? It is worth noting that the clients we currently work with are numerous, scattered worldwide through all continents, and some of them are tier 1 players of the media industry, both in the United States, the Latin American market, the Asian market, and European market. It has only been very recently that JUMP jumped, if the pun is allowed, into the gaming sector, okay? We are very confident of our success because we are carrying all the state-of-the-art technical expertise we obtain on the media sector, and then we are adding, on top of that, tons of gaming-specific insights we are obtaining by iterating closely with our new gaming customers, okay? But enough of that presentation. How do we do all of that, okay? To put everything in a nutshell, what we aim to do is we extract the data about your customer behavior and items catalog from your own storage systems. That might be a single storage system or of a dozen of them, okay? Then we run our algorithms and generate per user predictions. Finally, we expose those predictions by means of an API or a download, okay? This is the basic stage, but then of course, in-app integrations are also available, and we are talking with our current customers the best ways to create those integrations, okay? In order to check this in a little more technical perspective, okay, we could say that the ways to get your data could be either a downloadable source or a port that you send to us so that we can download your data. Or we also have the option of installing a software developer kit, which will capture on real time all the information that is critical for us, and then send it to us. Depending on your state of the art, your technical requirements, etc., one solution might be more optimal than the other. After we have all your data, basically what we are going to do is we generate in-app purchases recommendations for all of your players. Okay, as I say, we are going to run off artificial intelligence algorithms, and we just translate those onto recommendations for each of the users at the user level. Then what we could do is to show our purchase, our recommendations, let's just say, to your players through the API, and track the personalization monetization impacts versus those users that have not been recommended. Okay, the idea here is to carry out A/B testing or ABB testing, ABC testing, etc., so that we can measure perfectly if the personalizations we are providing are improving different KPIs. Okay. Now, this is where things get interesting. All of this has been the introduction of what we want to do. Sorry for the lighting. On a more technical perspective, how do we do that? Okay. On one hand, we have the player profiling. Player profiling allows you to understand how your players use your application, how they use your game, your several games, your whatever you are providing to them, and understand that not as a static snapshot, but as evolution over time. Okay, so basically we are going to give you a profiling of different ways your users interact with your game, different parts or stages of the game in which they may be involved, and the evolution of these stages over time. So you understand how much time your players spend on different stages of the gaming workflow, okay? And if some of those stages are getting a greater disengagement, a lower disengagement, different motivations for that disengagement, etc., etc. Now, after we have gone through the player profiling, what is more important here is to fit the model with different data, okay? So we can train our models. Here I have selected, or I have highlighted the players clustering. So we could group different players with similar behavior based on their profiles to create different segments in which we could train the models, okay? Usually training our models with all the available data is not the best approach, but rather we might want to specialize different models in different kind of users, okay? However, there's a double side of this, which is the initial implementation we force out, that we planned, was to give personalizations, players clustering, players disengagement prediction, and most importantly, player in-app purchases personalization at a per user level. Reality is that when we face this integration with our first gaming customers, we realized that many of them didn't have, or they had technical limitations in order to implement a recommendation at a user level, okay? So what we did is, in order to ease the changes that our customer need to overcome to integrate our solution, is we created different clusters of users, as we said, with similar behavior. And then we train the models for each of those clusters and generate predictions or recommendations for each of those clusters. So they could have an easier time by just creating different stores for each of the clusters instead for each of the users, okay? I might go deep down into this idea, but it is basically a technical limitation, and how do we overcome that? Now, when we are talking about model training and prediction, there are two main model branches, as I said, model disengagement and the personalizer. When we are talking about disengagement, we have a difference here from our more traditional subscription media entertainment businesses, in which we usually have a cancellation event. We know when a user activates a subscription for a streaming service, and we know when they cancel it. But in gaming, this does not happen. They install your game, start playing, and at some point in time, they are just going to stop using it. So the disengagement model, what it's trying to achieve is to understand the different patterns of your users and provide a prediction of which of those users are likely going to disengage at a time interval, at a time horizon, okay? So the idea here is that you are gonna be talking about churners, but disengagement churners. What's the usefulness of this? Basically, that you can adapt some aspects of your game, or you can just create some marketing campaigns with a focus on the fact that they are not interacting with the game in the same way anymore, and trying to retain them, okay? The idea here is not only to have a list of the users that are going to disengage, but also, most crucially, is to have a number of reasons of why they are disengaging, okay? This is critical because it's the fact, or this is the point that is going to allow you to propose the best action to retain them, okay? As I said, these actions could be marketing campaigns, or could just be some specific kind of gifts inside the game, or I don't know, whatever, because here the gaming domain is so broad that each of the customers, each of the games might require different approaches. But the idea is that we have the information that is going to allow you to take those actions driven by data, not by just a hunch, okay? This is the disengagement model, but we also have, I believe that my screen has changed. Sorry for that. Okay, I'm going to start presentation again. I don't know what happened. Sorry for that. Yep. Here, okay. Here we are. I don't know what I just do. Are you still seeing the screen and everything's all right in there, Chris?
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. It's live. Don't worry. It's fine. Yeah, it's probably just accidental.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue.
Yeah, go.
I just finished to explain the disengagement modeling, okay, and I'm going to explain the personalizer. Now, a personalizer or a recommendation system usually just recommends users. You are thinking about Netflix, for example, they are going to recommend contents that you have not watched already, okay? And they might think that is interesting for you as a user, okay? So the thing here is that this way of facing recommendations is not going to work well for gaming, okay? Why this is not going to work well? If you probably are not a lot into machine learning, but here let's just say we are making the predictions or the recommendations by understanding two different branches of the content, okay? One of those branches is the similarity content. So basically we understand the content that has been watched by each of the users. And we are able to provide a score of for all the rest of the catalog by getting the similarity between the contents watched by the user and other contents that are just similar. By understanding similar, by different information we have of the metadata of that content, okay? Point is, this basically does not translate to gaming. Depending on the game, we might be recommending different things, but the most critical or easy to understand example is our store items, okay? We might have in-game items that could be purchased either with real money or virtual money. And all those items have metadata, okay? But you are not going to buy something that is exactly the same of other items you already bought, okay? So basically this does not translate to gaming. The other way we generate recommendations in the video entertainment context is by using machine learning algorithms that understand the patterns of consumption for each of the players, okay? So basically we have a player or a customer that has watched an amount of content. We translate that into a pattern and we try to find other users that have a consumption pattern which is similar, okay? And then we recommend, okay, if you have watched all of this content and there's a lot of other users that have watched more or less the same content than you, but they also watched something else, I might recommend you, okay, you might want to watch this other content, okay? Problem is, this is not translated well for gaming either. Okay, so we had to migrate all of these concepts for the gaming industry. Just to understand, machine learning algorithms are very good at detecting patterns automatically. You throw at them all the information you have, then perform some feature selection, and finally you let the model decide what's important for them and generate good predictions. Afterwards, you can query the models in different ways to determine what are those patterns, what was important for them. When recommending something, this does not work, okay? What we do is we mix machine learning models with business-oriented rules. So you can decide when and how to use personalizations depending on the motivation fed into the artificial intelligence models, okay? This is the definition or this is what it leads to personalization channels. And a personalization channel is basically, I'm going to recommend you those items, whatever they are in the contents of your game, but I'm going to recommend you because of this, this, and this, okay? This is a critical change, okay? Because it is similar as with disengagement, in which it's not only useful to know which users are disengaging, but also why they are doing so, so you can adjust the message you are impacting with the user. In the recommendation ecosystem, it is the same. I'm going to recommend you those matching guns or those hand grenades or those medipacks or whatever you are recommending because of a series of reasons. And having those reasons, orienting those machine learning algorithms to take into account specific kinds of patterns, you are going to be able, for example, to pop up the recommendation of you might want to have a medikit because, for example, you used to have several medikits before each play and you have run out of them. Are you sure you want to go into the play without having purchasing some? To have an example. Another example of a personalization channel is we have observed that the players that have beat you in the last 10 games have purchased this kind of weapon. So you might want to counterfact them with this kind of armor. That is very, very effective, allows that kind of weapons. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about personalization channels. You orient what is the model going to understand, what is going to detect, the patterns they're going to detect, and you are going to generate, for each of the users, you're going to generate recommendations based on each of those personalization channels, okay? Now, on top of that, just imagine that we also have access to the catalog of items to be recommended, along with their metadata. We can create an extra layer of intelligence for the model, allowing us to calculate similarities between all those items, the same way we did for content that was going to be watched on a subscription environment. So we can calculate similarities between our items and fit into the model. So the model is not going to contemplate each of the items as isolate entries, all different between them, but we can create a network of entities. So the model is going to understand or have more information about how these items relate between them, okay? And we are able to make much more richer recommendations. Very, very easy to understand example. We might have different shotguns that vary with the level or just by the cost. So we might understand that you will have a perfect score or the best score if you bought the most expensive shotgun. But because of the time at which you are during your game experience, you might not have the level, or you might not have enough experience, or you just are very far from the amount of money, virtual or not virtual, that you need to buy this shotgun. So instead of recommending you the top of the top of the level shotgun, we might change that for something more affordable for you as a user. And now understand that this is if we are taking into account that the objective of our recommendation is to increase the number of transactions, increase the exact, the short-term revenue, let's just say. But if we want to implement different strategies as to, we want to rotate, for example, the catalog of items, because we want to motivate users to be using all the weapons we have developed, not only the same ones. We might feed the model with this information, and we might make it easier for all users to purchase different options, okay? To purchase some things or some items that do not have a strong presence of the ecosystem right now. This is also done by using the catalog metadata. We can understand what the user needs, but instead of giving them the top of the, I don't get the word right now, okay, but the best item of that kind, we might recommend them a similar one, but that is for some reason is not very present on the ecosystem, and we might want to boost them. Those are all ideas, okay? But let's just understand that we can create very, very specific personalization strategies and push them to our players. Finally, and not the most important part, but the part that we cannot skip anyhow, is the personalization impact, okay? We need to measure and have a very good visibility of how all those metrics and how those disengagement actions that you took, all the recommendation strategies that you are applying, how are they impacting, okay? Whatever are the KPIs you want to bust, but you need to have them very, let's just say, you need to measure them correctly, okay? If you haven't done a lot of experiment designs, okay, when you are mixing recommendations from a system as an artificial intelligence system with the real marketing campaigns or in-game strategies that you are applying, measuring the performance is not as easy as it might seem, okay? Let's just have the very easy example of a model that is gonna telling you that a number of users are very prominent to disengage. And then you just try to force them to engage again with the game by gifting them with a number of items, okay? How are you going to measure if those users were really going to disengage or not? You have changed their perspective of the game by inducing an impact, okay? So what you have to do is to have a good design, a good experiments design that is going to telling you, on one hand, how effective is going to be the model, okay? How good is the model at predicting based on the data, and how good or how effective are the actions that you have taken. Those are two different effects that can be measured correctly if you have a good experiment design, okay? Now, I'm just going to give you some examples of what are the KPIs the player profiling could be based on. This could be, for example, revenue, the virtual cash they have, what in-app purchases they are performing, what are the kind of items they have used, the number of items they have used, what's their level, but not only their level, but how often they level up, what is their win-loss ratio, etc., etc. Depending on what you're getting about, those KPIs might vary drastically, okay? But here I'm just stating some of the most usual ones. Well, as I said, if you as a company might have some technical limitations to implement the fact of having different recommendations for each channel, for each user, what we have devised is just a player clustering that could have a number of recommendations per channel, but for each of the clusters of players. So you reduce drastically the technical impacts or the stress of your system when just giving the recommendations to each of the users, okay? More examples of personalization channels. I just say you could take actions to create impacts for players at the brink of disengagement. You could recommend in-app purchases similar to the ones bought by opponents who defeated each of the players. Consumables that players usually buy are run out of or are almost running out of. You could recommend improvements to the player's current equipment. You could recommend items purchased by next level players or players that are performing better than you, but on the same play style. You can just recommend items according to individual players' style of game. Users who have been playing less than a certain amount of time might need some boostings or some gifts to get them again on the spin, running the spin, okay, etc., etc. I have the feeling that I'm talking too much. This is what have a ponency like this one. And well, finally, you could measure the impact of your different actions based on a different number of KPIs. Of course, you have the increasement or decreasement of the number of transactions that you have. Not only transactions, but you can be looking at the revenue, the customer lifetime value, etc., etc. You might be trying to boost some kind of items, or you are trying to boost the fact that your users use all the items on your catalog. You might be trying to measure the retention that you're getting on your players, etc., etc., etc. And I almost forgot, because we are modelizing the disengagement of your users. Of course, in order to do that, you have to measure the engagement of your users. So your impacts could be measured not only on raw KPIs, but also on if the engagement of the users has increased or decreased over time due to each of the actions you took, okay? Now, just to wrap it up, because I believe I'm running out of time already, just telling to you that our most or the fanciest example of our experience implementing the solutions I have been exposing is a customer called Digital Legends. We implemented several of those solutions in one of their AAA games called the Respondables, okay? And basically, we were able to increment and measure a percentage of both the revenue and transactions volume. Right now, what we are trying to do is we're working closely in new iterations with them, in which we don't only want to prove the capability of the efficiency of the models deployed, but now we are trying to work into ways that not only increase the business KPIs, but to integrate with them to boost specific areas of the user's experience, okay? As I said, we are not only gonna go after specific revenue or transactions KPIs, but we are going to investigate how we could change the user experience, or how could we affect to the gaming ecosystem by using these kind of recommendations, okay? Basically, this is everything I want to talk with you. I believe I more or less got the 20 minutes I had to talk, perhaps a little bit more. So I don't know, Chris, if you have collected some questions.
Unfortunately, Carlos, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were in such a good flow. We've gone for about 35 minutes, I'm afraid.
35,
so,
okay.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're all friends. We're all relaxed here. But so I'm going to have to. There's a couple of questions, but I'm going to have to ask them to talk to you in the Discord after this, or pull to your meet to match. But
Okay.
thank you so much for the insight. I mean, it sounds really fascinating, and it's great. I think AI is very exciting. I think it'd be really interesting to see as well, to learn from you what you've learned from the other industries. Obviously, we're very focused on the game space here, but seeing how you've worked with other entertainment apps and tools and bringing that into games, I think is great. We always want new ideas and inspiration coming in. So Carlos will be available in Discord to ask chats and to get more about Jump, which is a great AI platform. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about them in the years to come. So welcome to the games industry. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.